MTBtrigger here. Welcome to a quick drop episode on the Winner Winner podcast. A mini winner. That doesn't sound that good. Micro chicken? I mean, a microwave kind of sounds fast. I don't know. We'll figure out what to call these later. Quick, strategic, getting better, fast. Rapid chicken dinner? I still don't know. Someone who's creative is probably going to put a good idea in the comments. Let's just get into it. This mini episode is all about the lab on Paramo. Location highlights, layout, lootable areas, and strategy. So, the lab is one of two fixed named locations on Paramo. This one sits in the north center of the map, meaning it's always in the same place, unlike some of the other dynamic locations. So if you like it as much as I do, you will always know the area itself and the surroundings that you're going to play. So let's hit the loot first. The lootable areas on the lab consist of a 2-story viewing area, with a second-story deck, I might add, a breezeway connecting that section to a dome structure, and a detached helipad on the south. The helipad is by far the most exposed, but it is sunken into the ground below the lab, so it can be used as a great alternative if you lose the hot drop to the lab, but with only a handful of loot spawns, it can still be very risky. The dome has loot on the 3 entryways, just inside their doors, and then a significant number of spawns scattered throughout the actual dome. The breezeway, or the tunnel, connects the dome to the 2-story building, and it has loot throughout as well. By far the most loot at the lab is in the 2-story structure. There's loot on the patio outside, inside both levels, and there's even a little side room that has loot as well. So there you go, the 4 main sections of the lab where you can find loot. Now let's talk about some highlights and strategic options you have at the lab. The domed area, which is on the eastern side of the named area, has 3 exterior entrances. There's a little patio with a door that all lead into one big room with a bulletproof section in the middle. Think of a donut. The loot is all around the room, and on the north end is the connection to the breezeway or the tunnel. On the northeast side of the dome, outside of the structure, so in the dirt or the grass, you can actually jump on a box and then ledge grab to get onto the breezeway, or with another careful jump onto the dome itself. I haven't found getting on the dome very useful yet, but the breezeway vault can actually be very useful for dodging an enemy team in the 2-story section. There are 0 windows facing east in the 2-story section, so if you're on top of the breezeway and you run up to the wall next to the 2-story building, it will actually give you complete cover if an enemy team is holding that spot inside. They will have to exit the building to spot you. The breezeway also has a hole on the north side that can be used to enter and exit, but it leaves you exposed to both buildings. So if the enemy is looking in here on either end, you're going to be in a bad spot vaulting in or trying to get out. It's great for flanks, and it's even better for quick escapes to the hillside, but be careful using the flank coming in. Speaking of the hillside, the thing that I like the most about the lab is the playable terrain that surrounds it. So to the east is a hill that leads to lava flow, which actually presents a tremendous amount of cover because there's rocks and dips and a lot of varied terrain that you can use to get cover from enemies. Additionally, you can run the hill and stay safe and out of sight of everything except for the top of the dome. Now again, I think getting on the dome could be useful in an endgame situation because it offers verticality you can't get anywhere else on the map in that section, but it's going to open you up to long-range snipes, so you got to use it very, very carefully. The helipad and the Connex containers are also a very unique spot. So if you go down south, there's a pretty steep hill, and there's some Connex containers scattered around, and then there's a helipad. There's even a few nooks that are between the Connexes and the hillside that can actually cover you almost completely if you need to buy time on a rotation on a flank, or if you hear enemies approaching and you need to buy time to heal. The west and south hill leading to the lab is also quite steep in some areas, but also has additional containers spread around the building, which are going to allow leaving the building with some cover, or you'll have something to hide behind if a team is already holed up inside the 2-story building. Now, I will say, I tried to get on top of the 2-story for way more time than I care to admit. There's pipes that you can actually vault and ledge grab onto, and from those, it seems like you could get to the roof, but there's a railing there that prevents it. And the only spot that looks almost reachable is if you're on the railing going up to the deck and you vault off to the right. It seems like you could potentially get a ledge grab in there, and might is the key one here. It's a big might, because even if it's possible, I really don't think you can plan on making that jump in any sort of consistent fashion, because running and jumping on rails is not exactly smooth. The last thing that I want to hit related to strategy is how the circle affects the lab. If the circle goes north, being able to hold the lab and the hillside that runs east and west on the south side of the lab seems to be critical. Many teams will rotate up the hill from the compound below to the south, up towards the lab, or they will try to rotate around the west side, which is the very steep slope, but the lab is the high ground in both of these scenarios, but you have to beware a sneaky squad crossing the lava flow that can get a little bit higher ground or use that breezeway as a flank on your team. If the circle ends up going south on the first shift, you're going to find teams funneling in from the north extremely quickly. I find that the north is the least defensible side of the lab. It is easily approached from multiple angles, and those containers that are close to the building will actually block the view of many approaches because they are so close to the building. They offer great cover if you're rotating south to the lab, but they prevent a lot of vision for the team that's in the lab if you're trying to defend a flank from the north. My recommendation is for a south circle, rotate off as quickly as you possibly can, because the terrain to the south is also very flat once you get down that first hill, and you really do not want to be running through it late, because there are many vantage points off to the side or even across the lava flow. So yeah, my final thoughts on the lab. It's one of my favorite areas in Paramo. I love that it's always in the same spot, so you can use similar strategy when you go there. It's not great for a full squad drop because there is loot, but I think there's probably just enough for one squad to leave, I don't know, semi-kitted would be the way I would say that. So if you go as a full squad and another one shows up, I think it's going to be very challenging to leave with a full team. Personally, my favorite way to play the lab has been solo squads, which I don't play solo squads on really any other map. It's really just this one now. And I do it because there's usually only one other team, and I think the terrain offers incredible play. You can flank, you can vault. There's some great interior structure that you can hold. What I would say to you is if you're gonna try solo squatting and dropping at the lab, be patient. Use the breezeway, especially vaulting on top of it if you get the chance. The other thing I've found to be extremely effective, run in and out of the dome. Confuse the enemy. It is extremely challenging to communicate which door a person is using. So if you're doing that effectively, they're not going to know what to say, and you can move really quickly to another door, or you can move to the hillside. So good luck out there. Hopefully this helps you with the lab on Paramo. More to come. We'll catch you soon. Winner, winner, out.